Yes. Welcome to another great episode of the Ashish and Friends podcast. We got another episode of the QB Carousel, except they're not going anywhere. They're coming back for one more year. That is Cam Newton to the New England Patriots. Hey, Dev, can you give us the details of that contract and what are your thoughts on that deal?
Yeah, so the contract is a base salary of 5.1 million if he is healthy and on the roster. He'll get 6.6 if he starts every game, 8.6 if they get a playoff spot and he starts every game, and 13.6 if the Patriots make the playoffs. I think if he hits some target numbers and if they go to the Super Bowl, something like that. Really, I think the number we're realistically looking at is either that 6.6 hit, maybe the 8.6, right? For Cam Newton. And I think that's still kind of an overpay. Like Cam could have maybe gone on a minimum deal, right? But I think they're rewarding him they think he's going to be better another year in the system. He's not going to have to deal with COVID, right? He got COVID, and we kind of talked about it last episode with Andy Dalton. A lot of the quarterbacks, a lot of the players who got COVID didn't look the same after for a while.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think they just trust him. You know, they obviously spent a year with him in the system. He kind of knows what's going on. He believes in Bill Belichick, so like, why not? I think when everyone saw that first figure, they're like, "Whoa, 1 year, 13 million! Like Cam's paid. That is a lot of money." But like when you look at the the reality of it, it's not that much money. And like you mentioned, might be still in a little bit in an overpay. But like you've already invested some time into Cam, and he's shown glimpses of being like a pretty good quarterback a couple of weeks last year. So. I don't think it's too bad.
And he did if we talk about like last year, what happened, right? One, we talked about it before the year. The entire Patriots defense opted out, right? Right. So how good do we really expect them to be? I think me, you, and Shahan all predicted 7-9, which is what they ended up at, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought, Cam's numbers are awful. I think he had like one of the worst passing seasons that I've ever seen, right? In terms of just the raw numbers. But he did get his 12 rushing touchdowns. He won games while he was healthy. I think he was 7-6 as a starter or something like that.
Yeah.
And so like that's what you want from him, and he earned another year. And he's essentially a bridge quarterback, right? I think both of us expect them to maybe like they could still make a move maybe and get a Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe go get someone else, and then they can figure out what to do with the Cam contract. He's not so expensive you can't have him as a backup, right? And they may go get a rookie quarterback. They may go get, I don't know, a Sam Darnold or someone and have them sit behind Cam. They have options, right? So we'll see what happens. I think most importantly for the Patriots, Cam is someone who is good enough to hopefully get this team into the playoffs. And we'll talk about why we think they might be a playoff team coming up as well.
Right. So first off, Sam Darnold would be fantastic, but there's no way
Jets,
the Patriots and Jets are making him deal.
Yeah,
especially with Bill Belichick still head coaching over there. But like you mentioned, he is kind of a bridge quarterback, and like you mentioned, they do have the number 15 pick in the draft, so they potentially move up and select a quarterback, and let him just learn from Cam for a year and whatnot, sit back, and you might be like, whoa, that's not the Patriot way. Well, as we just found out today, the first day of free agency, the Patriots had thrown the Patriots way to the side. They're like, yo, F this. Usually they're like all about the comp picks, making these nice maneuvers, flipping veterans for more picks, and they're like, whoa, the Patriots doing genius shit. But like today, they're maxing out their credit cards. They're like, yo, we signed Cam, we're gonna give him help this time, right? And they already day one they signed 6 players, right? Like more than anyone else. Like we haven't heard too much about any other NFL team. They might have signed 1 player, but like the Patriots are going all out to try to make the playoffs, right? And I think Bill Belichick's really upset that Brady went out and won the Super Bowl. He's like, yo, this looks bad on me. I'm getting my players back from last year that opted out. I'm just ready to max out this credit card and get the players I need. I need the talent, and they're making a strong push for the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Because even without going and being this big of spenders, I expected them to be a playoff team.
Yeah.
And the problem is now with the way they spent, this would have made a lot of sense if they got Jimmy Garoppolo. If they got a quarterback that we expect can take them to a Super Bowl. I don't know if Cam Newton is that quarterback. And so now it's the question of, will they have that quarterback next year? And maybe that is the plan. Maybe the plan is trade up, get Trey Lance, and start him in 2022, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think there's still things up their sleeves, right? Like you mentioned, they could still make a trade, sign a free agent, or maybe just draft someone. We don't know what's going to happen, but like I think Campbell is at least, like you were talking about earlier, he's at least good enough to get you into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just their goal this year, is to try to be back in that Patriot way of winning.
And their team is built around their defense, right? So really, what you're wanting from Cam is maybe 20 points a game, maybe, right? Yep. You might be able to squeak out some 14-7 wins, 14-10, give one of like these wins. Who knows? With the Patriots defense, they might be able to win a game 7-3. Like,
right.
It's really, you need someone who is just going to make the right decisions, who's going to keep the ball moving, right? And Cam, with his legs, he still led the league in rushing touchdowns last year. I mean, you would expect him to be able to run for a few first downs on these third downs and keep the chains moving a little bit, keep your defense rested. And that's kind of what they're looking for. I think Cam fits what they need.
Yeah. So like going into last year, we were like, yo, Tom Brady left because he was done with the Patriots. He was done with Bill. And, that offense wasn't that great, right? Like they didn't have all the weapons. Is he can go back to an old ass Julian Edelman, right? Like, he's just like, whatever. There's better pastures in Tampa Bay. And we saw it worked out, right? Mm-hmm. But then we're like, yo, Cam Newton went there. He doesn't have that many weapons to work with. And, it wasn't that great. So they made a lot of moves. 3 of their 6 signings are on offense, right? They're willing to give Cam the help he needs, and
2 of them are receivers.
2 of them are receivers. The third being a tight end, right? And the first signing today was Jonnu Smith, who is like a top 6, top 7 tight end in the league. He is a stud, and I think is a great deal. It's always nice to have a safety blanket at tight end, right? That can go down the middle, get you those 5, 10, 15 yards at a time, and especially for someone like Cam, right? He needs that comfort, right? He had that Greg Olsen with Carolina, and they worked so well together, right? It's just so nice when you have that offensive, tight end, and I think Jonnu Smith going to the Patriots was fantastic for them.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like Jonnu Smith, they're paying him what, 4-year, 50, which is so essentially you're paying 12.5 a year for a tight end that's top 10 in the league. That's pretty good value, right? And that's someone that I think we saw what Cam Newton was able to do with a great tight end in his time in Carolina. And so I think that's like it's a good fit as well, right? It's what they wanted. If you're going to spend money on Cam, better a tight end than a deep threat receiver, right? For what his skill set.
Yeah. And you can always tell from the past decade with the Patriots, they always love good tight ends, right? And even the Martellus Bennett's they make good use of, right? And obviously the Aaron Hernandez and Gronk sets, those were fantastic. So they know how important tight ends are, and I think, like I said, that just having that safety net and someone that's actually like a really talented player, it's great. And 450 is pretty good. And then moving on to the second signing was Dolphins nose tackle Devon Godzilla, and that was for 2 and 16. He's actually one of the better nose tackles in the league. I've kept an eye on him, especially when I play Madden. Like he's a good player to trade for, so I kept an eye on him. He's a stud. So they're bolstering that defense. They're ready to get one of the premier defenses in the league, and that was a good signing as well.
Right, and I think that. I think with that too, you're looking at the Patriots have like this great defense, but a lot of it is in their like their linebackers, their corners, and their safeties, right? So it's good to help bolster that line.
Right, and they doubled down on it. They got Matt Judon, right, the linebacker from the Ravens. That was a big signing, and Judon was for 4 years, $56 million, and like I said, that move was just like, whoa, right? Like, we're like, whoa, the Patriots are really just, they have a lot of money to use and they're spending it, right? And I think that was a great signing, and hopefully it works out for them.
Right, and I think this one was 56 million, 32 guaranteed. That's a lot of money. That's way more than you ever see the Patriots spend on anyone, period.
Yeah, yeah. That, like I said, that was really shocking.
Yeah.
And hey, they took someone away from the Ravens. I'm sure they're happy with that too. But like I said, they're
And
just
the Titans, right? So they're kind of taking out the AFC.
right. People that have screwed them off in the past few years, they're just like, yo, F you. Yeah, so Johnny Smith, God Show, Matt Judon, fantastic. The other three, I'm a little questionable about. They signed the defensive back, Jalen Mills, who's with the Eagles. They moved him around from cornerback to safety, and let's see what he does with the Patriots. But he got paid, right? He got paid 24 million for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, maybe Bill sees something that a lot of people don't. But yeah.
So the important part about that contract is the $9 million guaranteed, right? So they can move on from him next year with a small cap hit if they just want to cut him after next year. And the year after that, I think it's all like they've paid through the guaranteed money, so they could cut him for nothing. So really, if they can get 2 years out of him, he's probably not playing this whole contract, right? He's probably getting cut before the end of it.
Right.
But I don't know. From talking to like Eagle fans on Twitter, they hate this guy.
Yeah.
They hate him. They like all I've heard is how garbage he is. So
he is total garbage. Like, as a Cowboys fan, I know this player, and I was so happy he's on the Eagles for so long. I'm like, this guy sucks, right? And they kept on. I think they even, yeah, man, I don't know. I thought they'd move on from him earlier, right? But like I said, that's not too bad. Like you mentioned, the guaranteed money is not that much, and maybe they can bring him back to what his potential was.
Well, and let's be clear, like DBs and cornerbacks, safeties, they've all looked better with the Patriots. Like, so many of them have looked their best with the Patriots, and then they go get these big paydays and are garbage.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of, I'm pretty sure Malcolm Butler got cut by the Titans.
Yeah.
So maybe reunions, gonna happen with the Patriots.
Right, but Malcolm Butler is one where it's like he's looking good, right? And then something was happening. They sat him out in that Super Bowl. Honestly, Belichick probably threw away a Super Bowl for his pride there, sitting Malcolm Butler against the Eagles and giving up the whatever, like 6 million yards passing they did that Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then they ended out the day with two signings, like you mentioned, wide receivers, right? Kendrick Warren from the 49ers, he got paid looks like 22.5 for 3 years, right? And they also got Nelson Aguilar from the Raiders, who was actually the Raiders' like number one wide receiver, right? Obviously Waller's their number one, overall option,
Target.
but yeah, but Nelson Aguilar was actually leading the wide receivers, and he looked way better than he did with the Eagles, right? And I guess that's what they're hoping with Jalen Mills. Take him away from the Eagles, and maybe you got something. But I think that the Nelson Aguilar was pretty much an overpay. That he's getting paid 11 per year, right? 26 over 2, 11 is the base salary. And I was just like, that is quite a bit. But if he's still as good as he was with Oakland, I think that's a good move.
Right. And we talked about this, that like I actually expected Aguilar to resign, honestly, because I guess the Raiders are probably going to go fill that hole with Smith-Schuster now. But to me, when I'm looking at the Patriots, I'm like, look, they need a number one, right?
Right.
Is Aguilar that true number one receiver? I think both of us would probably say no, right?
Right.
And I don't even know if Juju is that. I think Juju's probably better as a number two receiver as well. But Kenny Golladay is available. Juju is available. And at 11 million, 13 with all the incentives, you might have been able to go, put 2 million more and go reach and try to get these, these two better receivers. And I think that would have worked a little bit better, honestly. But I think, one, Juju is probably off the table considering his antics, right? That seems like a very non-Patriot signing. I didn't expect them to go – I expected them to go spend money on receivers, but I didn't expect them to go get Golladay.
Right, right.
Aguilar was a interesting one for sure, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah, so like I totally get why the Raiders didn't sign him back. I mean, they obviously do have two young players as well, with Ruggs up and coming and Brian Edwards as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, I don't know, the the price for him just didn't make sense, right? And even if you can't get the Juju or Galladay, but like there's Will Fuller, who I think wants to sign a 1 year deal, right? I feel like that could have been good.
Right.
You could also go for someone like Curtis Samuel or Corey Davis, right? Like
Right.
I don't know what this was, but I don't think he has to be the number one here as well, right? I think Johnny will actually lead quite a bit with the targets, and they
Yeah.
also have Julian Edelman, Nelson Aguilar, obviously Jacoby Myers, N'Keal Harry, and then Kendrick Bourne as well. That's a nice little squad you got going there.
And it is one of those things, right? We'll talk about Kendrick Bourne, but I think so far N'Keal Harry has been a major bust,
Yeah,
right, for the Patriots. And like I think we had talked about going into his rookie year that I thought maybe he had like outside potential for offensive rookie of the year that year, coming in with Tom Brady throwing to him, but then he was just hurt the whole year.
yeah,
So it's hard to win an award when you're not even on the field.
right, yeah,
And then he's just not looked great since all those injuries his rookie year. I just don't know. I really don't know, because I want to believe in him. I want to believe that N'Keal Harry could be that guy. And this is the way to see if he is, right? You added a tight end. You added Kendrick Bourne, who is a true like third option receiver. You
yeah.
still have Edelman. You add Aguilar.
You,
N'Keal Harry, if you got no excuses now. Now's the
right.
time to show out.
Yeah, like now he's gonna be fighting for reps, right? And
Exactly.
you're taking the pressure off him. You're like, okay, you're not the number one, you're not the number two, so
You're
like,
not even the number three.
right, like you got to prove yourself and work for those reps, and now you're in competition, right? And I think it's a good thing, right? You take the pressure off of not being that top receiver, and he is a bust so far, but if he becomes something, right, then you've got something really good going on with the Patriots.
And he is still their, like, as much as the Patriots have, considering Cam Newton's their quarterback, he is their deep threat receiver. Right.
Right.
Well, and Aguilar, I guess, too. But it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. And we talked about, like, how Aguilar looked better after leaving the Eagles,
Yeah.
right? I do wonder. So last year, Kendrick Bourne ended up with, I think I have the numbers here, 49 catches, 667 yards. That's really good. He had no one throwing to him last year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Honestly, the 49ers were like super injury, right? Like they had all these injuries going on. They had the plague going on over there. And then also it's just like they just fed Brandon Ayuk. That was basically it, right?
Yeah.
That was their offense.
Yeah, it's just been interesting, right? I think when we talk about the most underrated quarterbacks in the league, Derek Carr has to be like at the top of that list, right? And like the Aguilar signing kind of shows like what the difference is when you get a quarterback that's consistently hitting you on deep routes and not just throwing the ball away or throwing it in the ground or holding it too long, right? That Carson Wentz has been doing.
Yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah, I mean Nelson Aguilar looked really good, and I just remember there's that funny story of someone in Philadelphia, saving a baby from the
On
burning
like
building.
Aguilar.
And he's like, I had to catch it. I'm not Aguilar, right? Like I'm not dropping stuff over here.
Legendary YouTube video, right?
Yeah, dude. But man, he looked really good last year, and like I said, I think these are good moves. At least you're improving your offense. You're giving Cam the weapons and some nice options here. And look, the Patriots are making a strong push for the playoffs. They want to be back there, and I think that's great, right? Like you don't really expect this from the Patriots, but like I'm all about it, right? Like if you want to win, go out and do what you can. And they had all this cap space this off season, so might as well use it.
Yeah, I think it's real interesting, right? And I think when you look at trying to make the playoffs, the first thing you want to do is check what division you're in,
Yeah.
right? Okay, the Bills are probably the best team in their division, so they're probably trying to compete for a wild card spot, but they probably still have, 3 free wins out of their division, right? Because I assume they're going to beat the Jets twice, and then the Dolphins are looking a little bit better, but you're probably looking to split one of those games.
Yeah.
And if you can split the game with the Bills, you're looking fantastic towards making the playoffs. And they were third in their division this year, right? So they're going to be playing that third place schedule. I don't know how it all works with the 17th game. I'm not sure how the new schedule works yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll figure that out as the details come out. But I think the Patriots are a playoff team right now when we're sitting here, and props to Cam for getting paid. Good on Aguilar. Good on all of their players that were able to cash in on the Patriots finally spending their money. But we'll see. We'll see how far it goes. I just don't see them as a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, I think they're definitely probably like a year away, right? They've signed all these vets. They're trying to see what they have, and hopefully they can get like a better quarterback in there and do what they need to do. But I think their agenda and what they want to do is just make the playoffs again. And like they're kind of on the border last year, anyways. And with this, 7 teams making the playoffs, I think they're gonna make it, and they're all about it. I think, like you mentioned, the third seed like schedule, right, for your division, like this is a huge thing, right? Like you might not think about it, but like it plays a huge role.
Right. The Cowboys also get that third place schedule this year, which we're looking forward to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so interesting with everything going on, where all the dominoes are going to fall this year.
Looks like the Patriots are making moves, and by the time we're recording this, probably signed like 3 other people. We just don't know about it yet. We'll have to cover that at some other point. But I mean, yeah, I love it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, and you had mentioned earlier that Belichick was getting a little envious seeing Tom Brady and his success. I think that probably tacked on when he saw Brady restructuring. He saw Brady taking pay cuts, and the Bucs are now the Super Bowl favorites for next year. Belichick's like, man, I got enough heat from everyone saying I lost this divorce. I need to at least make the playoffs, because if the Bucs win another Super Bowl, then it's going to look real bad if you're Belichick. Yeah. But at least if you can get into the playoffs and the Bucs maybe lose in the playoffs, then you can be like, okay, see, we're right here. We're right here with the Bucs still.
That's exactly what he's hoping for, right? Like I was listening to someone, they said like, okay, if the Patriots don't make the playoffs for the next 2 more years, right, and the Bucs at least go to 1 more, like, oh my God, that is such a like big stain on Belichick's legacy, right? Because like that's what everyone's gonna think about. They'll be like, yo, Brady's the one that took them. Like I said, Brady won with the Bucs. They look like the favorites right now, and obviously the Patriots missed last year. So like I said, Bill Belichick's like, yo, I at least need to make it this year, and be like, hey, at least we're contenders, right? Like that's all you want.
And the other big news, right, for the Brady front is that with Breeze retiring, Brady is going to have every single quarterback record.
Yeah.
Because Breeze, I think so, him and Breeze have been going back and forth on the touchdowns for a while, and I think he's about 1,000 yards or maybe 2,000 yards behind Breeze for total lifetime yards. But that's definitely gone, because he's definitely going to pass that this year, assuming no injury, knock on wood, right? Assuming health, that's gone. I think he's still behind him in total completions as well. That's definitely gone, right? Brady is really like so when it comes to that Belichick versus Brady debate that's going to come down the road, if Brady gets a second Super Bowl ring, even with just the one, and Belichick, if he doesn't get another one, people are going to use that against him. But hey, look, Brady has this stat, this stat, this stat, this stat. Like, he did it for this many years, right? I mean, I think we talked about after the Super Bowl that Brady, a lot of like the greatest players might have 2 Hall of Fame careers. Like I think you could say, someone like Kobe Bryant had 2 Hall of Fame careers. Even like a LeBron James, if you cut his career off at the end of Miami, right? That's 2 Hall of Fame careers that he's had between the Cleveland and LA run.
Right.
But Brady has had 3. Brady has had that Troy Aikman phase, right? Being a good player on a good team, and just getting those 3 Super Bowls. He had like a Dan Marino phase in the middle where he's putting up all these ungodly, these like crazy numbers. And then he's had a back half Joe Montana phase with 4 Super Bowls in the back third of his career, along with putting up great numbers and an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, was it what I think before last year? At some point, they're just like looking at his career, and there's a nice split, right? Whereas like the yards were matching, and like it was just incredible. You're like, yo, just one person would make the Hall of Fame, right? Like one of these halves is like a Hall of Fame career.
But now he's in thirds, right? All 3 of these are Hall of Fame quarterbacks to me. You could actually split his career into 3 and have 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and that's just insane to think about.
It is definitely insane. But hey, we're just pissing Bill Belichick even more off right now. He's about to sign someone else, for a lot of money for no reason because of us. But this is a fun conversation. We'll see, how this works, right? Hopefully this works out for the Patriots. Worst thing is they don't make the playoffs. Like, oh my goodness, I could not imagine what would be going through in like Bill Belichick's head if that happened. But this is a fun conversation. We'll keep talking about
the carousel continues.
It continues. Like Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. There's a couple more moves we'll see, and with these rookie quarterbacks coming in, a lot of things will be happening, and we'll keep continuing this because
we'll definitely have a QB focused episode come out after the draft. That'll probably be I assume most of our teams will have their starting quarterbacks by the end of draft night. So we'll definitely have to go through and just that'll have our final recap episode, the QB carousel.
Yep, sounds good. But until then, we are done. We are out. See ya.